This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Love bombing happens in friendship too. And what we may pass off as someone, just taking time for themselves may actually be a certain form of breadcrumbing and or manipulation. Let's talk about it. Hello. Welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity, and up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah. It's the end of June, end of Men's Mental Health Month, Pride Month. Happy Pride to all of you out there. It's Father's Day this month. What else was it this month? I think it was I don't think it was National Braille Month. Was it? There was something else that I just found out recently that was a part of this month. So yeah, if you celebrated in any way this month or acknowledged in any way, happy birthday to anybody out there who had a birthday, you Geminis and you Cancers. I just hope it's been a very reflective month for you. And halfway through the year, what have you learned? What have you experienced? What are you taking with you? What are you leaving behind? I still have this one topic in mind that I want to talk about in terms of like your body responding to history and how it just knows a date. Like your body has anniversaries. But someone piqued my interest with asking a simple question. Because I was talking about how my podcast turns 7 at the end of July, I believe. This podcast is a Leo. Fire signs, baby. And I was saying, I think I have posted a clip of my my post about ghosting in friendship. Is one I asked, they were like, have you ever talked about friendship bombing? And I was like, no, I haven't. But the more I thought about it, I should. And the reason why is because I and you have seen so many videos on attachment styles, attachment theory, your anxious partner, your avoidant partner, your secure partner. And one thing that's being missed is these behaviors in friendship. Same stuff. Same dinner. Nope. Different dinner, same chef. And I say that because when this person brought up friendship bombing, I was like, well, what does friendship bombing actually look like? And it's just another word for love bombing, right? However, when we get into the fix of how it moves, how it's appropriate, how it's navigated, there's a certain bypassing of certain behaviors in friendship that wouldn't be allowed in romantic partnership. So when it comes to love bombing, right, you've heard about it before. Somebody pours it on very thick in the beginning, hot and heavy, right? Texts you every day, planning out things, whatever the case may be. They seem very interested, very involved in your life. And it just becomes this thing where it's like, oh man, this person's actually interested in me. To the untrained eye, it seems like intentional interest, right? Now, you start to notice that the effort starts to die out a little bit, or something trips the sensor, and now their communication becomes a little bit inconsistent, right? Now they're hot and cold, right? A couple of days go by, you don't hear anything, then they pop up and you respond. For example, they text you, you respond right away. And then now there's another 3 days that go by and you don't hear from them. And it's like, what the hell? Did you drop your phone? Did you get into an accident? Did you have to go to war just now? What did I miss within 20 seconds of responding to you that now I don't hear from you for another 3 days? And then that becomes a very confusing pattern. You're like, wait, what is that? Now in dating culture, someone will call it. They'd be like, this person's breadcrumbing you, right? And you're like, well, everything was so cool in the beginning. So what's up now? I don't understand what happened. It's like, well, they're breadcrumbing you essentially. Like they're reaching out to make sure that they still have this connection, intermittent reinforcement, getting what they need to out of the situation. So I text you, you respond, I get my fill that I still have this connection, that you're still interested in me. Being that I know that, I can dip out, right? And somebody would readily tell you, yeah, that's not cool. Like dip out. This person has certain avoidant tendencies and they're creating a dynamic where you are always waiting to hear from them. And now that becomes kind of the behavioral pattern, right? And you're like, damn, well, what now? And it's like, well, go date somebody else, right? Get back out there, because this person is showing behaviors of somebody with an avoidant attachment style. However, friendship bombing, right? Somebody is invested in becoming friends with you. And it gets interesting in friendship, because I've witnessed this, or I've experienced it, where people are like, oh, can we be friends? And it just feels weird to me, because I'm like, I've never asked someone, hey, can we be friends? It just kind of happened. And I don't know if we should be asking each other if we could be friends, because it will create the dynamic of what friendship is, and that will open up a conversation a little bit more. Or if it's just like, nah, we're friends, and we're friends by how we operate, how we treat each other, how we continue to move forward in this relationship. Friendship is such a deep bond that it doesn't. Friendship definitely needs to be defined. However, it's so weird because it's not a formal invite of like, hey, can we be friends? Like when you're dating somebody, it's like, hey, what are we? What's the label? And you get that label. Either we're just talking, we are partners now. Like we're boyfriend and boyfriend, boyfriend and girlfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, they and theys, unicorns and unicorns, whatever the case may be. There's like a formal clarity and distinction between the two, because what it's saying is like, all right, cool, moving forward, we are in this together. There's no other, like we're exclusive, like there's exclusivity there. With friendship, that doesn't necessarily happen. And I'm wondering if it is necessary to happen, or if it's just like, because the whole go with the flow thing too is even some kind of dodgy behavior. Oh, let's just go with the flow. It's like, what the hell is the flow if I never know if you're coming or going, or I never know what I can ask for or seek from you from this connection. And anytime I do approach you in a certain way, I'm being needy, or I'm being too much in dating. Now, what does that look like in friendship? So let's say you find a person, or you come across a person that's like the all-in kind of friend immediately, like they want to be close so quick. Now, there's a difference between somebody who wants to be friends with you and somebody who is looking to be an actual friend to you. And that is so important to realize. Many times when somebody has said to me, oh, can we be friends? I understand and recognize is like, you're looking for my friendship. You're not necessarily looking to be a friend to me. You're looking to be a friend to me, but you're not looking to be a friend to me. You get what I'm saying? It's like, you see what I offer, you see how I move, and something about that is enticing to you. And this is not even an ego thing. This is just simply recognizing what that is. A person who wants to be friends with you is not necessarily always a person who wants to be friends to you. Okay. So when we are in that space of, yeah, we should be friends. Or you have this person that's like hot and heavy in the beginning, right? They're hitting you up every day. They're trying to chill, whatever the case may be. And then the next thing you know, they just fall off. And in the friendship world, you're supposed to just deal with that, you know? And in the friendship world, it's like, well, everybody's going through something. Everybody's busy, you know? This person, they'll message you every few days, right? They'll get back to you 3 or 4 days later. And that's normal, right? Or it's appropriated, right? Because they're busy. They got life going on. It's the same behavior that exists in dating culture. And in dating culture, is called breadcrumbing or intermittent reinforcement. In friendship, is called, well, people have lives, right? But it's the same exact behavior as someone who is exhibiting avoidant tendencies, okay? And it's dysregulating. It's also disorienting, right? When you're like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to ask from this person because, yeah, we're friends and it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I shouldn't be expecting too much or whatever. You know, this is not my partner. However, friendship is a relationship, right? It's a relationship that actually is founded on some level of respect and clarity. So if a person doesn't even desire to be clear with you in any relationship, that's not one worth keeping, to be quite honest with you, right? You are half of every relationship that you exist in, which means that you have say, you have decision, you have power of attorney, if you will, to decide if this relationship is something that continues to be healthy for me. Do I feel like I'm being considered, or do I feel like I'm always the one that has to follow through while this person continues to fall back, or they create some kind of fog, or it's just always unclear what the relationship is? You don't allow people to tell you what you should tolerate. Instead, you allow people to show you what they're willing to put you through. And you decide, hey, is that cool with me or is it not? Right? Friendship bombing is a very interesting thing because there's no parameters or boundaries around it. And sometimes there are people who want to be friends with you because they want to get close to you, right? And that's where envy kind of exists sometimes. You have this person who just adores you and they kind of put you on a pedestal in a very interesting way. That's something to be careful of too, because a lot of times there's like this subconscious thing of like, I want to be this person. Okay. I am not wanting to necessarily be aligned with this person. I want to be this person attached. Okay. And that could kind of, play into the space of anxiousness, right? Attachment styles. When you take the attachment assessment, at the end of it, you'll usually have 3 sectors, I think, 3 or 4. So there's your relationship with your parents, your relationship with your partner, your relationship with your friends. Okay, that is one of the things, the categories. And then there is, I forget the other one, if there is a 4th one. But yeah, there's your parents, there is your partner, there's your friends. I don't know if siblings is in there. Actually, I don't think it is, which is odd, but whatever.
Hey, it's Paris. I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Yeah, so when you understand that, attachment styles isn't only applicable to romantic partnerships. And we get to have some level of discernment about that. Okay? With an anxious attachment style, for example, not everybody is an anxious attachment just because they are anxious about how a relationship is playing out, right? There are certain dynamics that continue to happen that are kind of leaving them dysregulated. Okay. And anxiousness sometimes does look like control and possessiveness. That's something to be mindful of too. It's not about good or bad or good versus evil. It's just simply about how somebody operates in a space of a relationship. And then you have the secure person, right? Who is asking questions like, hey, I noticed that, there's a certain pattern in terms of our relationship dynamic that happens, like with communication, or I notice that you check out, or I notice that I'm always the one that's making effort to chill, or, I ask about your life, but it seems like when I reach out to you, you can't really be bothered, or I feel like I'm too much or something like that. Like, is there any clarity on that? And depending on who the person is on the receptive end of that, they will respond, accordingly. If it's an avoidant person, it's like, well, I just like to go with the flow, or, yeah, I'm not on my phone too much, or, I've just been busy, or we don't need to talk all the time to be friends. All of these things that kind of puts barriers in the way of the actual intimacy in the relationship. Okay. And a secure person will do a couple of things. One, always ask for clarity or seek clarity if the relationship is important enough. Two, state the issues, state the conflict. This is what I'm noticing with you. And then three, if they continue to notice it, well, they just stop investing in the relationship, and they also create a boundary. Hey, look, listen, I am a little bit different in terms of how I operate in friendships. So, inconsistent patterns, they don't really work for me because I'm intentional about the people that I have in my life. This is how I function. And you don't have to do anything different, but this is just how I operate. And then the hot and cold and the in and out it's dysregulated. Whereas an anxious person might be like, well, what do I have to do to keep you in my life? Which means that I will bend to your will. And now I become dysregulated. I am okay settling for less. And then anything that I do ask of, I kind of refrain from. I always wait for you to hit me up. Okay. And that in itself creates an imbalance in the relationship too, where it's like, oh, I don't have any say in this connection. It's on this person's terms. And that's something that you have to be mindful of too, because in friendship, it can be a little bit more elusive and fly under the radar, where you start to realize that, oh, this friendship only seems to operate on this person's terms. Like, they reach out to me when they feel like it. I shouldn't expect anything from them when I reach out, or I shouldn't be reaching out to them at all, because that seems like I'm being needy, or that seems like I'm wanting more, or that is not a friendship anymore. They're not my partner. I'm not theirs. So therefore, communication should be at a minimum, and I should just not desire anything, but I should always be present when they want to be a participant in this friendship, right? And we will go through life like that. And then it becomes, well, everybody's busy. People go through things, right? We don't have to talk all the time. But what if that starts to look like somebody who only reaches out when they are in need, and then they disappear when they're not, right? How a person treats you when they think that you can't do anything for them is so crucial. Okay. And if you start looking at attachment theory in all aspects of your relationships in life, you'll notice it. You'll notice attachment theory in your professional setting, right? You'll notice the dynamics that you exist in, that you're creating yourself and in your head with other people, your boss, your colleagues, right? Your peers. There is always some kind of connection formula that's taking place everywhere that you go, not just partnership. And I think we've done a disservice in terms of what interpersonal relationships look like, and also the hierarchy. So much so that we don't realize that the same behaviors that we're calling out in romantic partnerships, we are appropriating in friendship, right? Breadcrumbing is breadcrumbing, okay? And people in friendships can do it too, right? Somebody can reach out to you only when they need something. Somebody, they only, when they're in need, when they have something going on, they tend to reach out to you. But if nothing's going on, you never hear from them. They're never making plans with you. They're out with other people, right? And even this concept of like, I have different friends for different things. That is kind of a very slippery slope, in my opinion, because you'll notice that if you have friends for different things, you have the friends that you go out with, and then you have the friend that you never invite anywhere, but you always know to reach out to them when you need something. That's using somebody, right? That's not having friends for different things. That's kind of having people for different favors. Okay. When we start to get a little bit more honest about what it is and how we navigate and how we function, we can see the dysfunction in it. Okay. A person that's breadcrumbing in a romantic partnership is also a person that's likely breadcrumbing in their friendships, right? The intermittent reinforcement happens. The only difference is like, yeah, I have sex with this person, A lot of times that's what it comes down to, and in a certain level of codependency. Okay. So I encourage you to actually think about, attachment styles and also, friendship bombing, right? Somebody coming in hot and heavy in the beginning and then they can't sustain it later and then they disappear. One thing I really do pride myself on, which is probably why I'm so particular about my friends and also why I'm so particular about friendship, is because I can sustain who I am. It's not a facade. And like I tell people, it's like, who you meet today is who you will meet in a year, is who you'll meet in so many years to come. And it's not that I am not growing as a person. Actually, I'm growing a lot as a person, but my value system and my standards don't really change past the point of like, hey, this is how I move, right? I'm intentional about the space I keep. I'm also intentional about the people I keep in my life, right? So there's not this performative thing, because it's like when I step into a relationship, I'm not needing something, right? I want to show up. I want to create a interpersonal relationship that's healthy. Absolutely. That's important. Love that. But it's not something that I'm trying to seek from a person. So there's no validation. There's no, There is no ego boost, right? None of that is a part of my trajectory. But I have noticed it with other people, which is why when things do require some level of commitment, like in a relationship, they kind of ghost, or they get a little bit different, or the communication stops. And it's like, oh, okay, so you were seeking something from this until you weren't, right? You don't have to let anybody disrupt your peace. You don't have to let anybody disrupt your pattern, whether it's friend or whether it's partner. If somebody is being inconsistent with you in any kind of capacity in their relationship with you, you get to call that out, and you also get to step away. You are the half of every relationship that you exist in, which means that you shouldn't be the only one doing the effort. You also shouldn't be the only one sustaining the relationship. If somebody cannot show up in the connection consistently, right? It's not always going to be 50-50. However, if it's a constant 20-30, or if it's a constant 20-80, yeah, that's not a connection. That's you doing favors. And this person is okay with how it looks and how it feels, because they don't have to do much to get everything from you. All right, so just be mindful of that and really take that into consideration as you move forward. Let friendship be a standard that you hold. And remember that everybody who wants to be your friend, you don't have to be friends with them. The friendship is not owed to anyone. Okay. Friendship is truly a relationship that requires some level of sustainability and intention. And not everybody who wants a friend is looking to be one. All right. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other, take inventory. My Take Flight program is in full effect. I have a couple of spots open. I'll leave the link in the bio. If you're looking for a different approach to coaching, the link is in the bio. You get to take a look at what it is, what it consists of, and how it can suit your growth process. All right. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Take flight.